Okay, so are you ready?
Ever heard that story about the guy who, like, busted out of prison with just a wooden spoon? Or the one where they used a nail file to tunnel out? We all love a good prison break story, don't we? But what happens when someone, kind of blurs the lines between fact and fiction, even when it's totally obvious, you know? Well, that's what we're looking at today. This story's got ambition, delusion, and even a pretty uncomfortable chair.
Yeah, it really makes you think about how even in a controlled place like prison, people still crave recognition, you know?
Yeah.
Like they need to stand out somehow. And often that's through these stories they tell.
Right, exactly. So today's main character, that's Decca Heggie. Bit of a tough guy, you know the type. And his story starts, well, pretty typically, in the middle of the prison yard. Picture this. Decca's walking around trying to make a name for himself. And then there's Purple Aki, a name everyone seems to know, kind of whispered with a bit of fear, you know. He was this imposing guy, known to be a bit of a strange character.
Classic setup, right? You
Yeah.
got the new guy wanting to prove something and the guy who's already got the respect and attention.
Totally. So Aki walks up to Decca and gives him what seems like an amazing opportunity. But here's the thing. Aki says he's planning this huge diamond heist, and he needs someone, quote, flexible for the job. So you'd think this flexibility test would be something athletic, right? Or maybe showing you're really strong.
Yeah, you'd expect something that actually makes sense, like something you need for a heist.
Exactly. Instead, what does Aki do? He pulls out this tiny little wooden chair, you know, the kind you might see in a kindergarten classroom. Totally out of left field.
It's ridiculous, right? That's the first sign that something's off here. Is Aki serious, or is he just messing with Decca?
Well, Aki, totally serious face, tells Decca that to be a part of this big heist, he's got to squeeze through the chair. Why? Oh, you know, for the air conditioning vents, obviously.
It's all about what Aki's doing to Decca psychologically, right? He's playing on Decca's need to be accepted, to escape his situation, even if it means believing something totally crazy.
He's falling for it hook, line, and sinker because he
Yeah.
wants to be a part of something exciting, something bigger than just prison life.
Exactly. And that need to escape the ordinary, even if it's through fantasy, well, that's something we see all the time, not just in prison. It's a very human thing.
So you've got Decca, right, faced with this totally ridiculous challenge. And what does he do? He goes for it, of course. He's not backing down, not with everyone watching.
It's all about saving face, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even in prison, there's this pressure to look tough, to maintain your image.
Oh, totally. It's like this whole culture of ego and competition.
Exactly.
Right.
And Decca, he's so caught up in proving himself, he starts trying to like cram his body through this tiny little chair. Can you even picture this scene? The prison yard, this absurd test, all the other inmates watching.
It's almost like a slapstick comedy routine, right?
Absolutely. And the other inmates, they're eating it up. It's a break from the monotony, you know, a little entertainment.
And Aki, what's he doing during all of this?
Just watching
Yeah.
with this calm, almost amused look on his face. Makes you wonder what's going on in his head.
Like, is he enjoying this? Having this control over the situation?
I think so. It's a subtle form of manipulation, isn't it? By creating this whole scenario, Aki is establishing his dominance, but he's not using force. He's using this weird mind game.
And Decca's stuck right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Literally. He's wedged in that chair, his ego probably hurting more than anything else at this point.
This is the moment of truth, right? Decca could just give up, laugh it off, but that would mean admitting defeat.
Which, in prison, especially when you're trying to fit in, is not really an option. So what happens?
Aki gives the chair this little nudge, and Decca goes tumbling down in a heap, and Aki just looks down at him and says something like, "Looks like you need to work on that flexibility."
He doesn't miss a beat. It's like he's turning this whole thing into a learning experience, just part of the training to be a master thief.
Exactly. And that's where Decca's self-deception really kicks in. Instead of admitting defeat, he just pretends it all went according to plan. He starts telling everyone he passed the test that he's in on the heist now.
So get this. Decca, after, publicly demonstrating how not flexible he is, somehow spins the whole thing into a win. He's going around telling everyone he aced Aki's test that he's now like this elite heist crew member.
And that's the power of a good story, right?
Yeah.
Especially in a place like prison where the lines between truth and fiction can get blurry.
It's like his version becomes the official story.
Exactly. And it gives him status, even if it's built on, well, a complete fabrication. But here's the interesting part. Decca doesn't just tell this story, he starts living it. He adds details, makes things up, until he's convinced himself it all really happened.
It becomes this legend, right? And every time he tells it, it gets more and more ridiculous. Soon, he's not just squeezing through a chair. He's dodging lasers, scaling malls, all thanks to his amazing flexibility.
Classic cognitive dissonance. Decca's actions don't match the image he has of himself, this capable, respected guy. So to deal with that, he rewrites the narrative. He makes it fit how he wants to see himself.
Makes you think, though? Don't we all kind of do that sometimes? Tell ourselves little stories to make sense of things to protect our egos.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's human nature. We like stories that make us feel good, that reinforce what we already believe. The problem is when we lose sight of reality completely.
So, listeners, next time you hear an amazing story, one that maybe seems a little too good to be true, take a second to think about why someone might tell that story. Is it possible they're, even subconsciously, twisting things to fit a narrative? And what does that tell us about how we see ourselves and the world around us?